but a discovered baby, and was found swimming in the cistern, sleeping in the strawy manger, squatting on an orange pumpkin behind the cowshed. Swarming the air about his head that evening, there was a cloud of newly hatched mayflies, ephemeral and chaffy, their pale membranous wings pleating the darkening sky. Not an hour ago he'd watched them ascend in their moment, like a host of angels from the stream that bubbled from a split rock and pooled before scribing a silver arc in the boulder-strewn pasture, before falling over a cliff. And then he heard his mother's plaintive voice. When he came down from the high meadow, the dogs were standing sentry at her sides, their solemn, stalky bodies leaning into her. She said softly, and then she said again with the conclusion of all time in her voice when he didn't seem to understand, "Thomas Jackson has died. It is now over," she said, not looking at him, not favoring his eyes, but looking past him and some place beyond. There was no emotion in her words. There was no sign for him to read that would reveal the particulars of her inner thoughts. Her face was the composure of one who had experienced the irrevocable. It was a fact unalterable, and it was as simple as that. He held his bony wrist in his opposite hand. He shuffled his feet as if that gesture were a means to understanding. He patiently waited because he knew when she was ready, she'd tell him what this meant. "Thomas Jackson has been killed," she finally said. "There's no sense in this continuing." She paused and sought words to fashion her thoughts. "This was a mistake a long time before we knew it, but a mistake nonetheless. Go and find your father and bring him back to his home." Her words were as if come through time, and she was an old mother and the ancient woman. "Where will I find him?" he asked, unfolding his shoulders and setting his feet that he might stand erect. "Travel south," she said, "then east into the valley, and then north down the valley." She had sewed for him an up-buttoned, close-fitting linen shell jacket with the braids of a corporal and buttons made of sawed and bleached chicken bones. She told him it was imperative that he leave the home place this very night, and not to dally along the way, but to find his father as soon as he could and to surely find him by July. "You must find him before July," she said. He wasn't to give up his horse under any circumstance whatsoever, and if confronted by any man, he was to say he was a courier, and he was to say it fast and to be in a hurry and otherwise to stay hush and learn what he needed to know by listening, like he was doing right now. She told him there's a terror that men bring to the earth, to its water and air and its soil, and he'd meet these men on his journey, and that his father was one of these men. And then she paused and studied a minute, and then she told him without judgment that someday he too might become one of these men. "Be aware of who you take help from," she told him, "and who you don't take help from." Then she eyed him coldly and told him, to be safe, he must not take help from anyone. "Don't trust anyone," she said, "not man, nor woman, nor child." The jacket on the one side was dun gray in color, dyed of copperas and walnut shells. When she turned it inside out, it showed blue with similar braids of rank. She told him he was to be on whatever side it was necessary to be on, and not to trust either side. "Secure pistols," she said, "and do this as soon as you can. Gain several and keep them loaded at all times. If you must shoot someone, shoot for the wide of their body, and when one